The Camel Experiment. The cost of maintaining its Army outposts across the U.S. was appalling to both Congress and the War Department. It wasn't wild Indians or renegade Mexican bandits that ran up the costs. It was the transporting of forage and other necessary outpost items through arid and semi-arid country. Eureka! Government officials had the ideal answer. They dusted off an old plan for a camel corps. The Army would use camels as freight animals to traverse the desert. Backers of the scheme insisted that if camels could be used successfully in Africa and Asia, they might also flourish in the Great American Desert. Some 75 Mediterranean camels, along with Greek camel tenders, were imported in the mid-1850s and delivered to Camp Verde, Texas. The so-called Dromedary Express was underway. One of the first tests of the camels was at Fort Tejon on top of the Grapevine Grade, south of Bakersfield. The experiment didn't come without a fight. When Lieutenant Edward F. Beale was ordered by Secretary of War John B. Floyd to pick up 25 camels from Camp Verde and take them to his command post in California, he exploded. "What," he asked, "was an Army man going to do with a herd of camels?" While Beale fumed, both orally and in written letters to Secretary Floyd, the Secretary stood firm. Beale had no choice but to travel back to California with 25 camels in tow, along with their Greek camel tenders. The first contingent of camels made its initial experimental trip from Arizona in only 15 days, with the camels swimming the Colorado River on their way. On January 8, 1858, the population of Los Angeles turned out to witness the arrival of the state's first camel caravan as they arrived at Fort Tejon. Despite Beale's initial displeasure, he found the camels reliable, docile, and patient. They would not stampede as the mules did. Their biggest detriment was the need to tend them during stops to camp, as the camels would amble for miles in search of forage. But the trip across the desert to California changed Beale's thinking about the beasts. The camels suffered from the rocky soil of the Mojave Desert, which chewed into their soft hooves. The Mojave was not the same as the soft sands of the eastern Mediterranean. Even so, Beale took a liking to the usefulness of the camels and refused to return them to Camp Verde when asked to do so. His excuse was the camels would be invaluable should California become involved in a military action, such as a threatened war with the Mormons. Instead, he left the camels at the ranch of his business partner Samuel A. Bishop, who operated a teamster service. Bishop continued to use the camels to haul freight to his own ranch and to the developing town of Fort Tejon during the next year. Mojave Indians often harassed teamsters along the route where Bishop hauled freight for Beale's work crews. The Indians willingly attacked civilians traveling through the area, but shunned soldiers. At one point, Bishop's men encountered a large force of Mojaves. The Mojaves sent ominous signals of wanting to attack. Bishop ordered his teamsters to mount the camels and make a charge. It is said this was the only camel charge in the West. Ironically, the Army had nothing to do with it. The surprise charge did rout the Mojaves, however, who were unaccustomed to fighting men on such strange beasts. Beale was eventually ordered to turn his camels over to the Army. He told his partner Bishop to take the camels to the Army at Fort Tejon. The camels had been worked so hard and were in such poor physical shape they were not worth feeding. They were consequently moved to a rented grazing area 12 miles from the post. As the animals' health returned, the Army resumed its experiments with camels. In one test, camel tenders were ordered to deliver mail by camel, much like the Pony Express. Mail was carried from Fort Tejon to Fort Mojave on the Colorado River. In the first trial, the camel dropped dead from exhaustion at the fish ponds, now known as Daggett.